Now Valley's here, we came to bring it home. Kim is back to clean the zone.
Okay, so I need to tell people, please, wake up. They can't show me or show the bones of anybody in the Bible. They can't show me no Hebrew. If the Hebrews built the pyramids, where did pyramids?
I'm the Rock Squad up, Magi Archers in the building, please believe. Oh shit. Nah. If you ain't Sinetta, no time for that interview, dog. I put my shit out for niggas, I don't send it to blogs. Plan kill off the Buddha, not being discreet. One puff is big pops and projectiles. Between the sheets. Sun run, cold game, bring your cleats. The best flow blow, Eskimo, penguin feet. Don't need no blunt to burn. You run the turf with 10 niggas on the block. That's a punt return. Ayo, Dolomite prototype soldier with the solar light. Saber and he hold it like he hold a mic. Golden ice pendants. Sipping on that overpriced poltergeist spirits. Ripping at the open mic, quote the nice lyrics like Mama moved mean overnight. Golden motorbike holding on some trying shit. That nice neon kit is on it. The king's libation with exotic liqueur. The queen's vibration like a Sada Shakur. A lot of the poor imported foreign threads they ain't got at the store. Nubian Kush, black top pottery jars, 39% THC, the quality pure. Old rapper try to spit ain't hot as before. It's like I'm five like the bull, bust the shots at the floor. Cats switch up their style when they ain't got it no more. Cause they gotta keep their product in stores to feed their kids. See what that weed did? The yes man agreeing on everything we said. I smell the mic like it's the love of my life. Don't get sliced and beat with the butt of the knife. Brother polite to say I'm animalistic, cause I still be in the hood with my hand on my pistol. The Hebrews think I'm cannibalistic, E5 divination, channel the mystic, audio visionary. Let's play poetical dictionary. Picture me burning down your missionary. Yeah. Then I send you religion. That red dot on your head, that's Hindu tradition. Invisible, independent, intrinsic shit. I'll bring it all to an end with indivisible games. Charles Xavier, getting your brain. Mental anguish, a manifesting physical pain. Wizard remains to dance in the chemical rain. Breathe slow, then I'm up out of this physical plane. Got military machinery that exercise, weaponized greenery. Shine at to jeopardize the scenery, son. Bruh, the beam 10 times your distance. Inclines conventions, stop rising with no trend line resistance. The parabolic breakout, I'm F-16 with the aeronautics fake out. God killer, the God killer, the God killer, the God killer, it's the God killer, the God killer, that's who it is. The God killer, the God killer, it's the God killer, the God killer, the God killer, the God killer, it's the God killer, the God killer. God killer, God killer, God killer.
A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth every time. Woo-hoo-wee, man. Y'all already know what it is, man. It's God Killer in the house. And we're coming to do what we got to do, and we're going to do what we got to do. We standing tall. We standing strong. Hey, Bobby Bang in the house. What's good, family? Man, y'all know what it is, man. Boy, we got a special guest today. Man, y'all know what it is, man. Aron Raw, man. It's going down tonight, man. Let the people come in the building, man. And, man, this is going to be a good one, man. We're going to have a little conversation about Darwin, a little bit of evolution, man. We're going to get to ask some good questions, man. It's going to be a quality interview, man. Man, welcome to the House of Consciousness, man. Man, for supporting the community of skeptics, man. Y'all know what it is, man. Our special guest, man, Aron Raw, man, is an American author, podcaster, blogger, atheist activist, critic with creationism and his teachings at American schools, right? His usual topics is skepticism, free thought, atheism, okay? He has a Bachelor of Science in Anthropology from the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University, man. And check this out, man. It's going down. I told y'all what was going to happen. We're going to bring some people in that's qualified to talk about the subject. We ain't by ourselves in the struggle to try to educate the people. Y'all know what it is. Not at all, man. So without further ado, man, let's get right into it. But first of all, man, we got a nice little audience piled up in the building, man. What's up with you? Oh, I see you, Miss Tiff. What it do? I see you. Richard Robinson, what it do? Reese, what's up? Mental Son, what it do? Juju, what it do? What it do? What it do? New Black World, what's going on with you? What's up with you? Mississippi Mud is in the building, man. Manrilla, what's going on with you? Lodisha Wright, what it do? That's Cleveland in the house. Oh man, it's going down, man. Let me go ahead and dive right into Aron Raw, man. Get him on here. Pop him up real quick. What's going on, man? What it do? How you doing today?
Happy to be here. What's going on?
Oh man, you know what's going on. We just fighting against the religious zealots in the community and fighting against those who just want to believe anything. So it is what it is, man.
It does, I think, come down to whether you care what the truth is, whether you want to understand the way things are, or whether you want to make believe something else instead.
Yeah, that's something to really ponder, right? I'm looking for the truth as well. I'm looking for information that can be supported by data. A lot of people aren't looking for that, which is fine. But for me, when I'm studying history of humanity, I always say you got to start with evolution because it's going to put you where you need to be at. It's going to talk about why life is so diversified. And when we talk about Homo sapiens, it's going to give us, at least for 2023, some origins. And it's good. So we're going to have this interesting conversation. So what kind of pushed me towards actually like really being able to get into Darwin and his stances, right, was a couple of your videos, all right? And one video in particular, Darwin and the Lord of the Flies, right? The special one for me was racial Darwinism, right? And whichever one. And this one right here, correcting Darwin's critics. So you had a lot of good crispy sources in that, man. So what do you feel about Darwin and his approach and being his work being the foundation of evolutionary biology, man? What do you think about that? Let's talk to us.
Well, as you mentioned, the mention of racial Darwinism, for example, one of the arguments that I heard as a child was always that Darwin was into eugenics, was what I was told, and that Hitler was a Darwinist. So the creationists always wanted to paint Darwin into the worst light as possible. But then when I actually read Mein Kampf, trying to figure out where does Hitler ever talk about evolution, and it turns out he does only on one page, where he denies it outright, completely rejects evolutionary theory, with the creationist arguments that we always hear. He says that evolution is only possible within kinds, that the new variation is limited to rare and infertile hybrids between those kinds, and that belief in the evolution of a new kind would be a sin against the eternal creator. And these are creationist arguments that I hear all the time. So Hitler was definitely not a Darwinist in any sense. And now what about Darwin being into eugenics? So Darwin was blamed for the Aboriginal genocide of the 19th century. And it turns out that decades before he wrote his book, before he figured out evolution, he goes to Australia on his trip around the world on the Beagle. And he wrote in his first book that was chronicling that voyage, what a terrible atrocity that was already going on when he got there. And yet a century later, he's being blamed for it. So Darwin has experienced a hell of a lot of bad press.
So why do you think that? Why do you think that's so? Is that based off just the misunderstanding?
Well, in England of that time, this was the imperial England, and I often view that the ethnocentricity, the arrogance of being British at the height of the British Empire was 100 years ago. Not a lot different than the MAGA crowd now. You know, when people get really, really patriotic about proud to be an American and all that, I kind of see us, we're just like 100 years behind where Britain was at that moment. And so Darwin was part of the aristocracy. He was born into a wealthy class. And so you would expect that he would be a product of his time. We should expect him to be a racist, pompous, arrogant son of a bitch. That's just what England produced overwhelmingly at that time. Strangely, though, almost inexplicably, Darwin wasn't that way. Now, I'm not saying he was perfect. I could easily say that he was sexist. He certainly didn't view, both genders as having equality. But the accusation that I always heard was how racist he was. Absolutely not. I mean, he went around the world constantly advocating for indigenous people everywhere that he went, and lambasting his own people, the colonists, or the colonialism, and bitching about slavery. He said once that he would never again visit a slave country, and this was when the United States still had slaves.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
No,
Interesting.
I don't know. No, you're right. That was America still had slaves. They still hadn't done the Civil War when he hadn't been to our country. He went to South America instead. But when he was lamenting this, our country still had slaves.
Yeah. So I think people, even let's just say he was a racist, that still
Okay.
wouldn't discount his work. The origin of the
Oh, he
species.
could have been a pedophile, communist, everything. He could have been, he could have been a blood-sucking vampire. But the thing is he was right. And it doesn't matter that he was actually a pretty decent guy. That's a nice bonus, but it's completely irrelevant to the point that he made in his studies. He did 10 years worth of research to make sure that before he published this book, that he had polished everything, that he had thought about every loophole that somebody might have brought up, because he knew what a big damn deal he was coming up with, and that he had better batten down the hatches and get ready for battle. He had better had a ironclad argument when he posts.
Yeah, he was kind of like at the frontier of science at that point, talking about what he was talking about, and he was kind of making a scientific prediction too. So he way out there, and then you got it's hard. I don't know if it's anything now that would be as mind shifting that was, because you're talking about people, indigenous people, thinking that they actually came from their indigenous creation stories. And then you got Europe, and they spread of Christianity and Islam, and they coming from their creation story. So the mindset was safely fixed, right? You got European colonialism going around postulating Christianity. So people was thinking the Garden of Eden or wherever their creation story took them. So to make that shift from that, right, to Africa, by the way, his thing was talking about Africa too. So that was like a hell of a mind shift. So what do you think about that? Am I getting that part right?
Darwin grew up in a time that I said he should have been a product of his age. It's amazing, frankly, that he wasn't the racist that people accuse him of being, because one of the people that he has based his studies on was Carolus Linnaeus, who in 1735 invented taxonomy, basically, the classification of all life forms. Carolus Linnaeus classified humanity in 6 parts: white Europeans, black Africans, red Americans, and yellow Asians. Not kidding. And 2 different species of humans, Homo nocturnus, which is not vampires. If you watch the Blade movies, it's vampires. But Homo nocturnus, according to Carolus Linnaeus, was orangutans, and Homo troglodytes, which was chimpanzees. So Linnaeus thought that orangutans, which are the name orangutan is actually an indigenous word for old man of the forest. And so that's what he thought too. And he thought that chimpanzees were human. And he wrote that he couldn't tell the difference between humans and apes. And he challenged the worldwide scientific community of his day to show him a taxonomic difference. He says, because he doesn't know of one. And so the weird thing was that we want to praise him for the observation that, you know what, chimpanzees, orangutans, they're the same thing as people. They hadn't yet discovered gorillas. So Linnaeus didn't know about gorillas. But the idea that he put humanity in four different subspecies classifications, that wasn't new or singular. Louis Agassiz, who was a famous Christian, and Carolus Linnaeus was Christian. Louis Agassiz, Christian also. He was an anthropologist, and he believed that there were 6 species of people, and that they were all created different colors on different continents with the intention that they remain separate, which we hear that today from the Ku Klux Klan. They cite the same kind of mantra. But Darwin didn't get any credit for this. Darwin was actually the first person to say there is only one human race. It's Franz Boas said that sentence, and so he got credit for it 16 years later. Darwin said the same thing, but he didn't say it as a single bumper sticker, t-shirt decal kind of a reference. He said it in an argument that was like 3 or 4 paragraphs long, where he made the case that there is only one. And he called out Louis Agassiz and Carolus Linnaeus and all of these other scientists of his day, who all come up with these different numbers for how many races of people are there. Up to 63, according to whichever scientist you're quoting from. And so he started, Darwin started pointing out how, like, these 2 anthropologists would classify the same person in different races, or members of the same family from different communities, doing by these arbitrary criteria that they made up. And Darwin is just criticizing them in a lighthearted way, but it's in his book. It's On the Descent of Man. And he's just ripping apart the anthropological community of his time for all of these basic prejudices that had been held since Europe was Europe.
And you know, that's squarely fixed in the middle of scientific racism.
Yep.
So I'm always getting the pushback. Well, that's a scientific racism. And my response is, wait a minute. He gave us a platform to push back at the scientific racism. What do you think about that?
You got to praise him for that. It's upsetting that he didn't get any credit for saying that there's only one race of people. But I mean, I've heard people say that, like, I remember this one guy from Ethiopia, no, I'm sorry, Somalia, told me that Americans invented racism. I'm like, what? You know, we might have gotten really good at it, but I don't think we invented it. And I remember reading something from 1st century BC Rome, where they were criticizing the people of Northern Europe, that the people of Northern Europe were red because they had more blood. I think they're talking about hair color and maybe pink skin tones, freckles, who knows. But they attributed this to those people having more blood.
That's interesting right there. So, okay, so that it's good to hear that. So in the Black community, there's pushback against Charles Darwin. Let me ask you this. How about in the white community? Do you get any pushback when you're promoting, 1, atheism, and 2, Charles Darwin?
Well, yeah, because it's the same argument over and over again, that Darwin was a racist and Hitler was a Darwinist, and no, these things, none of that is true. If you want to know who the Ku Klux Klan, for example, is I'm told that I'm racist if I advocate evolution. This is what I was told growing up as a child, right? That Darwinism, as they put it, was racism. However, the Ku Klux Klan, and anybody can just Google this in a moment and see, the Ku Klux Klan identifies as an exclusively creationist organization. They do not believe in evolution, and they state that explicitly. And the Nazis are very much the same thing. I mean, as I said, Hitler in Mein Kampf explicitly said the belief in what we call macroevolution was a sin. And creationists always tell you that belief in macroevolution is a sin.
Oh, that's weird. That's real weird. You know what though? Okay, so we got the Charles Darwin thing fixed. It's a book you wrote right here. Okay, we're all apes. It's a good book right here, man. It very simplistic. I don't know why you made it simplistic. Maybe you could tell us why, but it's
as I said, it started out as it started out as a blog post in around 2004. And then a couple years ago, somebody got a hold of that old blog post, and this publishing company wrote me and said, "Hey, would you mind if we post this as a book? You know, we'll do some revisions on it and then post it as a book with illustrations and everything." And I said, "Yeah, we can do that." But I mean, the concept is, you know, when people said, we don't come from apes, or we don't come from monkeys, or you want to call yourself a primate or whatever, I ain't no animal. We are all of those things. Mm. You know, you have one definition of animal, the biological definition of animal, which is typically that it's a multicellular eukaryote with an internal digestive tract. That's us, right? And in your common dictionaries, we'll talk about how the life form is animated. Well, you know, that's us too. Ecclesiastes 3:18-21 also describes that humans are beasts, right? It just says, okay, what's the difference? And I love that little bit of wisdom that the Bible is saying, that the only reason that people don't acknowledge that they are animals is their vanity.
Yeah, interesting.
That's an important point for the Bible to bring up, I think.
So it looked like a daggone children book there. I ain't gonna lie to you. When I was like, man, but when I got into it, it was I suggest this be your first book, your introduction to evolution right here. I suggest that to everybody. So I see the pictures. Was you trying to capture that childlike moment, right? Because that's really, it's so groundbreaking idea that you would literally have to do that. What was you thinking? Was you saying childlike what? What was you at?
That's what I was going for, because I'm arguing with people who usually have zero scientific education, just none. And so it's really difficult to talk to somebody that has been raised in in the kind of trailer parks I grew up in. Let me just tell you, we didn't know a whole lot about history or science or philosophy or any of these things, and we could talk about hunting, fishing, and football, but then that's it, right? That's like the extent of some people's ability to communicate. So I find that when I'm talking to people of a wide range of education levels, that if I can just start something really simple, a real easy thing to understand, like if you want to say, well, I ain't no animal, okay, well, what's an animal, and does that describe you? And most people will get that they are a mammal. Correct. Though they don't understand that mammal means is a subset of animal. I mean, what's a vertebrate? It's an animal with a backbone. Once you understand that you're an animal, okay, do you have a backbone? Okay, well, then you're a vertebrate by definition. And people want to object to that. They're going to want to say, well, these things don't apply to me because I believe different. I'm a child of God or whatever. Okay, well, I don't believe in astrology. I have no respect at all for astrology. But when people tell me that my birth date falls in mid-October, that means that by definition I'm a Libra. I don't have to believe in astrology to admit that by definition I'm a Libra. It's the fucking definition. I get that. That's how definitions work, right? So, what is the definition of a mammal? You're warm-blooded. You have hair. You have mammary glands. You're a mammal. Give live birth to that sort of thing. And then within that, what's a primate? A primate is actually a very long list of specific criteria. I mean, like, it starts with having opposable thumbs, but there's actually a whole lot more to it. Binocular, forward pointing, color vision, all of it. There's a long list of traits. And when you go through this long list of traits, it's a little difficult to say that you're not a primate when you've gone through every one of these things and they all apply to you. And then within primates, then we have monkeys.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got a couple more divisions. You got, but the lemurs on one side, the monkeys and the haplorhines on the other, and one of them has a wet nose like a dog, and the other one has a dry nose like us. So is your nose wet or dry? Okay, well then you're haplorhine. Okay, well nobody knows what the hell a haplorhine is, so I don't get any argument there. But then within that, now we've got the anthropoids. What is anthropoid? It means human-like, right? Another word for anthropoid for the same group is simiiformes, which means monkey-like, monkey forms.
Mhm.
Well, humanoid monkey forms. What's that mean? We're talking about the monkey group. And if you describe the diagnostic characteristics for every type of monkey without making special exceptions for certain ones, you do the summary description for all monkeys. You're describing people.
Facts.
2 pectoral mammae, this type of ear that only humans or only monkeys have, right? There's a handful of traits. The loss of whiskers, and I'm trying to remember that the penis is naked and dangling. That is a monkey trait. There's a whole bunch of them. And then monkeys go into 2 groups. So you've got New World monkeys and you got Old World monkeys. Now, if you describe New World monkeys, you're going to talk about something else. But if you describe the characteristics of Old World monkeys, you're describing people again. The tail is reduced or absent. The nostrils point downward, right? That's us, right? New World monkeys, the nostrils splay side to side, but in Old World monkeys, the nostrils point downward. And there's a whole long list of things. Like we have exclusively fingernails instead of having any claws. A whole bunch of stuff. There's a dozen or so items on that list. And if you go to a certain subset of the Old World monkeys, then you describe apes.
Time period. Where we at? Give us the time period. Where we at?
Oh, when these things emerged?
Yeah, kind of give us a time period you was out.
Yeah, well, let's say about 35 million years ago.
And people just act like they be like, oh my God, I'm not connected to that. Do you know how long ago that was? Funny, but go ahead. Go ahead.
When you give a description of what an ape is, and one of those features is that they have fingerprints, right? And they have brachiation, where the arm does a full shoulder rotation and everything, so we're able to hang from our arms. That's one of our traits. The number of hair follicles that we have on our body, well, at least for the great apes, which I'll get into in a moment. So we have all of these traits that, again, match. If you describe all the criteria for what an ape is, you're describing people. Now, within apes, if you describe, you have the lesser apes and the great apes. If you describe the great apes, again, you're describing people. That's where they have the same number of. Did you know that we have the same number of hair follicles as gorillas and chimpanzees?
Wow.
Just doesn't grow as long. There's a difference in the way that we have our sweat glands, but that's not important for the diagnostics of what apes are. The type of teeth that they have, everything about their teeth. We have entirely ape teeth. I saw a beautiful picture of this chimpanzee opens his mouth and looks inside looks in a mirror. And it's not one of those chimps that has like really long fangs, because you've got like 4 different species of chimpanzees. And this one has very small canines, and he opens up, and his bright white shiny teeth are exactly like I wish mine looked. His teeth were in better shape, but they're the same molars. They're the same cuspids, bicuspids, but they have the exact same dentition as we do. So if you describe all of the diagnostic characteristics of apes, you describe people.
You right there, and trying to get people to see that is hard, but that's the reason behind it. That's the scientific evidence that kind of verifies that, man. So look, we're at the halfway point. I want to bring the sisters up in the building, right? Drop this quick commercial real quick. Yeah, man, we're here with Aron Raw, man, and we doing it big. And I'm appreciating the dialogue and the conversation, man. But y'all know we got this big event coming, and it's coming, and y'all know what's coming. African spirituality versus science. Chicanti Diop's True Cradle Theory, Myth of Reality. September the 15th, right? 7 Eastern, $30, man. Welcome to the big leagues. Man, y'all know what it is, man. It's going all the way down, man. Yeah, Brother Say Cool versus me. All right? It's going to be a good one. We're gonna figure out exactly what African spirituality is, and we're gonna figure out what science is. And yeah, I expect everybody to support this event, no matter what side you fall on. Man, it's definitely going down, man. So make sure y'all get them tickets, man. That's gonna be next month, the 15th, man. It's a House of Consciousness event, man. It's the debate league, man. We know what it is, man. Yeah, Aron, I see you beating them up too. I seen you beat. I like watching some of your debates. I see you be beating them too as well. So, hey, Sister Juju, Sister Tiffany, y'all got anything for Aron? What's good?
Well, I just want to
killers. Hold on. These are the pseudo killers. We got an organization called the Pseudo Killers, right? Killing pseudoisms. Go ahead, ladies.
So I just wanted to say, so far, the show has been fantastic. Thank you, Aron Ra, for being here. If this is somewhat in the community of skeptics, I would say we're having an intellectual concert, and you are rocking it out for sure. So keep on banging. Keep on banging.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to second that, Bobby Banger and Aron. This is a great discussion, dialogue, very clean, and the information that's being imparted is very easy to understand. Yeah, I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. And you kind of answered some of the questions that I was going to ask. I was going to ask you how in communities that you're in contact with, maybe you can add to it, how they view this whole theory of evolution, but you kind of already, do you think people are getting better at accepting it? Maybe that's not the right word. Or think people are coming along?
I would say so. I would say so. See, I'm old, so I have the perspective of remembering the way that people argued decades ago. And 50 years ago, people were telling me that they'd never seen a new species evolve. How come they ain't never seen no new species evolve? We have, and now I can give the answer that we have. We didn't have an internet back then. We didn't have a lot of things that I could show people back then. Now I can just show them. Yeah, here's the proof. We have seen that. So creationists, where they used to argue that you can have variation within a species, but you can't evolve a new species. Well, now they know that a new species have evolved. So now what are they going to do? They can't admit that they were wrong, so they just push back the goalposts.
So when they ask you to show, what do you show them in terms of why don't we see anything evolving now? Was that their question?
Yeah, well, there's one, we can look up things online. I mean, there's instances of observed speciation, but there's also things that we've been using evolutionary principles by necessity throughout the entire history of agriculture. And everything we know about biodiversity, honestly, evolution is the only explanation of biodiversity. So we can show, when you start looking at like a global scale of animals, when you're just looking at the animals in your barnyard, you're not going to be able to see evolution much illustrated there. But when you start looking at the broader spectrum, well, now you do see it, right? Because javelina, for example, are not pigs. They're very pig-like, but they're not pigs. So to give an example, I mean, the argument that everybody jumps to right away, we got 200 some odd species of dogs or breeds of dogs that are recognized by American Kennel Club. And people will say, yeah, but you can interbreed all these dogs. And so they're all the same kind. Like, okay, well, now get any breed of dog you like, anything. Whether it's something that you raised at home or, Australian dingo, whatever, any kind of dog breed. And let's breed that with an African painted dog or with a South American bush dog, or an Asian raccoon dog. Those are different species of dogs. They're still dogs. They're obviously dogs, but they're so genetically diverse. They're so removed from the common population, they can't interbreed anymore. You all know what African painted dogs are?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
I've heard of them.
Oh, it's it's sometimes called the Cape wild dog. They're wild colored dogs. They're like black and yellow and brown and everything. They're all splotchy all over the place.
Yep.
They almost look like graffiti painted dogs, and they are my nightmare fuel because they're really horrific predators.
Mm.
But they're obviously dogs. You see these things, you recognize these are dogs. But they're not dogs that have 20,000 years worth of human bonding built into their genome and their culture and everything. These are wild hunters. They were never wolves. They weren't derived from wolves. They are separate.
Wow.
So, and they're genetically distinct. You can't crossbreed a dachshund with a African painted dog. All you're going to get is an African painted dog and a dead dachshund.
Right.
Hey, yeah, man, hit that Cash App. And by the way, man, I dropped the link in the server. Where y'all at? I dropped it in the Pseudo Killers thing. And so this is what I'm gonna do, right? We got like a half an hour or so left, a little less than that, right? I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. If you come up in here being stupid, then you're gonna get treated as such, right?
Immediately to the black hole.
Just you know what I mean, come up with your good questions. There was some good questions in the chat, right? But I would like them people to answer some, for you to answer some of the questions. So I'm gonna drop
I'd be happy
the link.
to.
All right, so y'all got a chance to go ahead. That way y'all ain't got to pepper me. Y'all be killing me. So yeah, now you got a chance. You got your chance now. I just dropped the link.
I like open Q&A.
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
If you want to jump into that, I'm happy to.
Right. That's why I wanted to put that link in there. We got roughly close to like a half an hour left. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get in on that right there. So boom, dropped it in there. All right, we got a Pseudo Killer popping up. Cedric, what's going on with you, man? Pseudo Killer official. What it do?
Peace and Black African power. I want to say it's an honor to be on a panel with two of my heroes in my life, Uncle West and Aron Ra. Y'all often hear me say, your God exists outside of time and space. Time and space is reality. So in reality, your God doesn't exist. Aron Ra is called. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to just be on the panel. I'm starstruck right now. I don't have any questions. I'm just honored to be in the presence of my two heroes on the same panel. Wow.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Anthony Bowman, Space Age African, Pseudo Killer official. What's good? What's on your mind, man?
Hey, what's happening with you, brother?
What's good?
Aaron, how are you?
It's all right.
No, I don't have any questions, man. But this is one of the subjects that I have a lot of interest in. So, yeah, I'm sitting here with my notebook, taking notes. Yeah, and I appreciate the conversation. I really do.
Well, thank you kindly.
It's been needed for a while.
Oh yeah.
So we do appreciate you there, Mr. Aaron Rock. We really do.
Yeah, we regularly refer to the videos that you have broken down in the series when we were discussing primates and simians. Remember those conversations back in the Discord, and we were using your material, Aron. So it's an honor and again a pleasure to have you on the panel. For our community, this is really big because we're dealing with a lot of pseudoisms and misunderstanding where evolution is concerned.
Well, tell me about some of that.
Oh man. Some of the pseudoisms. Go ahead, Cedric.
It starts with the basic one. We don't come from monkeys, where science doesn't make that claim. The comprehension that we are primates. You were breaking it down before I got on the panel. So this is one of the areas where we have the most difficulty and the hardest time. One of my pet peeves is evolution is just a theory. We go over what a theory is in science regularly. We talk about the evidence that substantiates everything that we're saying and how a theory is formulated. But we get the nomenclature consistently. Science, a theory, evolution is just a theory. So these are some of the things we're consistently dealing with. And again, it's just so refreshing to have you here to break certain stuff down. You and Unc, that's a golden duo.
I like to remind people of atomic theory. So do you think that chemistry works? You think that nuclear power is a threat? Or do you accept that atomic theory is a fact?
Yeah, that stuff works.
Yeah.
Germ
There's a
theory.
question I want to address here.
right, go
Ray
ahead.
Black says, wonder if Darwin thought some races were more evolved than others.
Get them.
When you read Descent of Man, his 1871 book, that's an interesting read because he changes his mind as he goes, and you can see it the way that he's arguing. He starts from the status quo. Now, as I said, all of the anthropologists in his day were very racist people. All of the people that he was beginning with was very racist people, and they used a term that nobody uses anymore about higher and lower life forms. And Darwin starts writing in the language that is ubiquitous in anthropology of his day, and then overturns and challenges that by the end of the book. So the one phrase that anybody ever shows to me when they say that Darwin was a racist, the only quote they can ever give to me is when he mentions higher or lower forms of humanity as he was taught. And he's explaining that this is how he was taught. And that's the only racist comment. And it's in context, you realize that's not actually what he's saying. And when you get to the rate of the book, he's just abandoned that altogether. He's just like, fuck that. That's that ain't even right.
Nice.
Yeah, like correct. All right, hey James, what's good? You got a question?
Yeah, what's good? So let me get this out the way. I'm glad that you brought this brother on. He was one of the first people to help me get out of my theism, right? Because he is one of the big stepping stones, and also Seth Andrews, which he knows, to get me out of that theistic mindset, the conscious community. Actually, no, I ain't gonna say conscious community. Ankh is the second step for me getting out of that, what do you call it, expanding my whole horizon when it comes to science and, scientific literacy. And now I'm on some other stuff. But I got to give y'all props because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for y'all. I would still be trapped in Christianity. So I got to give y'all props. So my question is that there is a small section of our people who do not believe in the outer Africa theory. They believe,
really?
Right. So here's the interesting thing. Some of them believe that they are indigenous to the Americas, right? And that some of them, not all of them, but some of them believe that we are two separate species of humans who evolved separately. I want you to break down how crazy that sounds.
Yeah, Darwin brought that up too. And I remember him, I can't remember his argument very well because it's not one that I've had to visit a number of times. But he says the idea, the polygenists is what he was arguing with. He said there were a number of people that were talking about how humanity had evolved independently from different sources and so forth. Like maybe our group came from the chimpanzees and some other people were evolved from the gorillas and some other people were evolved from orangutans or whatever. And I remember hearing people in the 20th century making those arguments. And in fact, there was one group of Christian terrorists that were making that argument.
I call them Christian terrorists.
The people that the Christian identity, the people that blew up the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City.
Oh,
although that was
I remember that.
That was a one-man job, but he came from this Christian terrorist group.
Christian identity. Yeah, we got a counterpart to that in this community.
All right, let's see what this is right here.
Okay, so the question is, there is no evidence of evolution showing transmutation of species. Morphology, yes. New species, no, especially with human beings. Okay, well, every bit of that is wrong. Yeah, so we have demonstration of of different species, not just confirmed speciation events, like in being able to show the examples of dogs that I just gave, where we have a number of different genetically isolated species that are clearly the same thing and are also genetically linked. We've also seen where camels and llamas are essentially the same thing, but they're more distant from each other than we are from chimpanzees, and yet Dr. Lulu Skidmore in Dubai in 1991 managed to use laboratory techniques to artificial insemination to crossbreed them. And so now we have a Rama the Kama, which is half camel and half llama. So they've got to be very close together. There are a number of observed speciation events of different types that have been done in the lab. There's also observed speciations under controlled conditions in the field, like the mice of Mauritius, for example, one good example, where sailors to an island called Mauritius accidentally brought these mice stowaways that got away on the island. And then you come back a century or so later, and now there's 6 species, and they're all genetically distinct. But when you trace their genomes, even though they have different numbers of chromosomes, when you do a paternity test on all of them, you find that the ancestry 23andme.com kind of thing, when you do this on the mice, they're all related. They all came over at the same time from Portugal. So there's a lot of different examples of speciation, actually. And just within human beings, we have a number of different species. We could argue that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens have interbred. It's happened a handful of times, but only a handful over 100,000-year period. There have been very few what they call admixture events. So Neanderthals and sapiens tended to stay apart. And we have closer alignment between Neanderthals and Denisovans, which may be recategorized as Homo longi instead of Homo denisova, because Denisovans were known only by their genetics for a long time. From their genetics found from a single finger bone. They didn't have any more skeleton. They just had a finger bone. But now they have a skull in Asia, and they think that it's the same thing. But they can't get any DNA out of the skull, so it's still inconclusive. They did find Denisovan DNA, or is it Denisovan? I may be getting these confused. There's another species of humanity, or subspecies in this case, of humanity that is found in Polynesian, Southeast Asian and Polynesian people. Mm-hmm. There's a whole other genome that the rest of humanity doesn't share, and that is from this group of people that were living with regular sapiens in Asia at the time. Then we have Homo naledi, which is a distinct species, older than all of these, but that also practiced the ritual of burying their dead in a cave. And I've got to see some of the earliest fossils of these, of clearly distinct human species. There's the Homo rhodophensis and Homo habiliensis are very close. They might be the same thing, but neither one of those are Homo erectus. Homo erectus is a hugely diverse species. They ran from Spain all the way to Indonesia, and they were widely diverse. They were 4 foot tall to 6 foot tall, even as children, and they had their diversity within their group was so extreme as to put any concept of human diversity, it would make it laughable, because some of them had brains barely bigger than chimpanzees, and some of them were on the level of, or at least the lower end of modern Homo sapiens. And as I said, their size range was enormous too. The differences between them culturally or physically here from different places in the world where they lived was much, much more distinct than what we have. There's a lot of things, like if you look at the skeleton of a snake, for example, you can compare 2 colubrid snakes. You'll never be able to tell them apart. All the differences are in the surface. If you can hold the skull of a lion and the skull of a tiger, you're going to have a difficult time. You'd have to be an expert to be able to tell those 2 apart. How would you know which one had stripes and which one had a mane? But when when it gets to the point where it's in the bones, when the changes go from the superficial, from the surface, all the way down into the core, that's where the differences in Homo erectus are. Their skeletons are profoundly different from each other as well as from us. And likewise, Neanderthals have different skeletons than we do. They're generally smaller and more robust. They have a bigger brain than Homo sapiens, but it's different. Where we have most of our brain, the most of the important part of the brain is in the frontal lobes. They have this extended occipital bunt. They didn't think like we do. They still practiced art. They buried their dead. They did all of that kind of thing, but they didn't think the way that we did. And if I don't know how I can put this, except maybe if you've ever met somebody who was autistic, or compare introverts and extroverts and just see how they behave differently. So Neanderthals tended, from the evidence that we've seen, to stay the hell away from us. And not necessarily out of fear, they just didn't like us. And looking at past human history, I could probably guess why.
Man,
Yeah.
you said it, I didn't. Hey, Marcus, what's up?
What's going on, God Killer? How's everything?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. Aron,
Good old army in the
pleasure
building.
hearing you.
Thank you.
I had a question. Well, it's really two questions. You brought up Homo naledi.
Yeah.
And from some of the newest things coming out of Lee Berger, he is making suggestions, maybe, that they also did some artistic writing on the caves where the bones were found. Are you aware of that?
Are you talking about the hash marks?
Yes.
Yes, I did see that.
What's your feelings about that so far?
Well, I remember that they made a big deal about some piece of art that was done in South Africa in a cave that was it was like an abstract kind of series of lines. It wasn't the hash marks, but it was like 70,000 years old, and so that was the earliest depiction of like an abstract art form. And now we have this from Homo naledi, which and again, they're physically different. They're physically distinct, so you can see in the bones that, these are these people. The differences aren't just surface anymore. They're as far different from us, and different enough that it's expressed in the skeleton. And so that's important, I think, if we're going to be talking about whether or not there are other species of people. It depends on how we classify them, because there's two different means of classification. The one that I prefer, the one that's the least ambiguous, is the biological species concept, where you might be able to interbreed them if they're in captivity, but in normal circumstances they wouldn't interbreed, and then when you do interbreed, you only get a hybrid maybe, and you don't get something that's viable or that's fertile. That's a clear distinction between species. There's another classification of species that's talk about different points, different criteria on the types of differences that they have, and maybe they can interbreed, but you still have two very distinct groups that you can identify in a moment. And again, they tend not to interbreed.
Okay, all right, let's get to the next person. Super Wavy, what's your question? Then I'm gonna get to Rasan L. What's up, Super Wavy? What's good, brother?
Peace to the panel, man. What's up with it? Bobby Banger, Unc Sid, the sisters. How y'all doing? Gullah, man. I'm on here, man, watching and listening to my three favorite atheists. I got a question for Aaron Raw. What is the craziest thing you heard from a religious person? What is the craziest thing you heard?
Last week, I challenged somebody to come up with an explanation for it. He said he had no reason to believe that there were any animals alive more than 6,000 years ago. So I started listing the reasons that he actually had to believe that. And I said, so here's all of this data that implies that life was here more than 6,000 years ago. Now, you give me a fact and evidence that implies that the earth is only 6,000 years old. And he said, I have a consciousness.
Oh, man.
And I thought, well, That applies in the old Earth model as well. No difference. So that is not a fact and evidence for young Earth. Try again. And his answer? My consciousness.
All right, that's wild.
Dude,
And
I
I'm
wanted to
like,
segue on that.
Whoa, hold on, Cedric. I want to get these people out of the way. Come on.
I wanted to be polite, but I'm
One second.
thinking if you're going to keep answering the same thing the same way, then your consciousness is in doubt.
Completely, right? Hey, Rasanel, what's up, man? Talk to us.
What's going on? Glad to meet you, brother Aaron. I kind of had a biological question. I don't know if it's the right setting, but I hope you can answer. I was in a biology class in college. Really, first time I got interested in science, and the teacher explained that humans inherit. I don't remember if it was characteristics, but the things that make us living organisms, or things that make us living organisms, which is like 23 chromosomes from my father. I believe 20 chromosomes from my mother, mitochondria from my mother, and a third thing from my mother. So basically 75% of the things that make us living organisms we get from my mother, and just 25% to 20 chromosomes from my father. I can't remember the three things that is specific. I was wondering if you can answer that for me. Maybe this is not the right setting. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, you get half your chromosomes from your mom and half your chromosomes from your dad. Your mitochondria does come from your mom,
right?
And your Y chromosome comes from your father.
Right. I thought it was a third thing from my mother that we, I can't remember. But I thought it was a third. I believe it was three things from my mother and just the one, thing that makes a living organism, at least, from my father. But I wasn't sure if this is the right setting, but I was hoping somebody could answer that.
Yeah, I couldn't think what that third thing might be.
Okay, I appreciate it, man. I'll try to find out.
All right, man. Appreciate you, bro, for stopping through, man. We got another pseudo killer in the building, man. Mac Rob, what's good, man? What it do?
Man, what's up, good people? Sorry I'm kind of late to the conversation, so shout out to the pseudo killer chat, Mr. Aaron. I have two questions. I actually had 100, but I'm hoping that answering these two will answer the other 98. And to the brother
you can
before,
you can get one. You get one, because then we got one more person on here that's for you. Yeah, we don't, you know what I mean? We up against it. Go ahead, though.
Yeah. So the question I would have then would be, if I have 4% Neanderthal, am I 96% Homo sapiens sapiens?
Mac Rob is hilarious for this.
That's a fight, though. I just want to let you know we've been fighting. That's a fight right there. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think I heard the whole
Neanderthal James.
Ask him again. Ask the question again.
If I have 4% Neanderthal in my genome, does that now make me 96% Homo sapiens sapiens?
Well, yeah. I mean, the 4% that you can have as Neanderthal is the max. It's the most anybody has. So most people are going to be right around 2. Sub-Saharan African people tend not to have any, because when we have people that have migrated out of Africa, it was the matter of timing in the move to get out of Africa. Neanderthals were 100,000 years ago, they were occupying this whole, like in Israel, whatever. So a lot of people that moved into Europe and that moved into Asia, they come through the same corridor where Neanderthals were. And the very few admixture events that there were then. And the only reason that you get up to 4% with so few admixture events is because there were so few people, period, at that time. So it's surprising that we still have any Neanderthal DNA at all as a remnant of this. We have evidence that Neanderthals and Denisovans had shared quarters together for some extended period of time, that they commingled in family organizations to a degree that we didn't. There are Homo sapiens and Neanderthal hybrids that have been found in the fossil record, but there's not many. Yeah, culturally, it seems Neanderthals and sapiens stayed apart. Neanderthals and Denisovans got on fine. And then for whatever reason, Denisovans and people, or excuse me, Denisovans and sapiens appeared to get on fine as well, because there's a huge amount of their genome that is in East Asia. But it's also because they were a strained species at that point. There was hardly anybody left. So it kind of you go where you have to. So just before they went extinct, the Denisovans ended up interbreeding with Tibetans and Polynesians, and the Neanderthals didn't. The Neanderthals just tried to move away from us until they just basically went off the edge of the earth.
May I know it's at that time, but on this argument, just to get it clear, are you saying that today there's different species of humans?
No.
That's the sentiment.
Oh, no.
That's the sentiment going on.
Yeah. So there were, and Darwin's argument was that the way that they were using race in his day was somewhere between a species and a subspecies classification. And he was arguing that there is only one race of people alive today. Everybody everywhere is all the same race. Now, if you go back far enough in time, there were others. And we have genetically distinct lineages. The Neanderthals and Denisovans were very close to each other. And then the Homo naledi is another obvious example. There are others, that Homo erectus and Homo rudolfensis habilis. But there used to be other species of people. There is now only one.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, because the Neanderthal question is, now based off my limited knowledge and reading, that when we talk about 1 to 4%, we're talking about that we share 1 to 4% genes with Neanderthal, right? Yeah. That's not taking us out of the category of Homo sapiens sapien.
No.
But there's right. I just want to clear that. I just want to sit back. I like to see how the chat go. I like to
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Okay. Just so I know. I already knew where it was. But we good. So we almost up against it. We got Gullah, you got a quick question, and Titan Chill, then we gonna let Aron Raw out of here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got one quick question. And I'm a big fan of yours too, man. I really appreciate your work, what you do. I actually went to school for anthropology. I didn't finish, but I love the field, of anthropology, especially when dealing with taxonomy and primatology.
Is finishing that class still possible for you?
Yeah. I just got kids and stuff like that, and a lot of stuff going. But I will finish. I'm just gonna take some online classes.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you too. Since we used to term monkey, colloquially. I know scientifically, no such thing as a monkey in taxonomy. It's actually simians.
Yeah, but I mean, the word monkey has been taken to apply to Anthropoidea / Simiiformes.
Yes.
And where somebody mentioned earlier today that we don't come from monkeys, that science doesn't make that claim. I'm kind of going to overturn that.
Yes, and that's where I'm going. And I had a discussion with the same brother Ump too, and brother Cedric. Technically, wouldn't humans, when we still be monkeys and apes? Since monkeys come from monkeys, and
exactly
apes never stop being monkeys. I mean, we are.
I have to clarify, because there's an argument between paleoanthropologists, or excuse me, paleoprimatologists fully understand this. Anthropologists don't always. So there's this concept that apes didn't come from monkeys, that apes and monkeys share a common ancestor. That notion is based on the Cercopithecoidea, the modern old world monkey. The thing that they're not aware of is that Cercopithecoidea and Hominoidea both descend from a fossil group called Propliopithecoidea, which are, or rather were,
monkeys.
Monkeys. Yeah. And then, of course, if you're looking at the old world monkeys and the new world monkeys, they had to come from the common ancestor that was itself a monkey, right?
Exactly. And then too, like y'all get confused, because the new world monkeys are actually a much older, basal branch of that family too, as well.
Exactly.
All right, let's move to this last question, man. Titan Chill. Yeah, but you talking 40, 30 million years ago there, Mr. Gullah, when you try to ease it in on us. Like the cabbage like the letters in the humans, they leave out the 1.3 billion years. It's funny to me. Where you at, Titan Chill? What's good, man? It's the last question, man.
I'm right here. Peace, y'all. Can you hear me? Am I too loud?
What's on your mind, bro?
Well, just want to say firstly, appreciate Aron Rod. I've been watching Sonetta for many, many years. I just found you, Aron, maybe last year sometime. You and Forrest and Jimmy and Dilla Hunty, just watching you guys. I really appreciate what you do, watching you tear down the stupid arguments. But my question is, I have a friend who I've known for over 20 years, very smart guy, but he makes some really pseudo claims. And I'm struggling with, do I let him live or do I try to correct his mistakes? Which I'm not an expert and I may not be fully equipped to do so. So what would be your suggestion to handle someone you care about who has really crazy ideas sometimes?
I'm an ass. I have to address them. I could never let that go. If somebody gets something factually false, I have to point it out. And I don't mean in the way that I hate people who start a sentence with the word actually. I hate that. But at the same time, you have to correct it. If somebody were to tell you, if somebody were to brag that, you know, Benjamin Franklin was the first president of the United States, would you correct that guy?
I think I do that.
Yep.
Well, it depends on if I care or not. Like, if it's just somebody, just a random person on the street, okay, have your thoughts. But this is somebody who I actually have a bond with, a relationship with. So it'd be different for a different person.
So you're doing him a favor then?
Oh, maybe I misheard the question. Could you repeat that?
No, I mean, if somebody you care about has something that believes something that's fundamentally false, I'm going to be inclined to correct, you know, the people I care about if in an appropriate way. Right. But I mean, that's what you're addressing too. You know, in a discreet way, maybe not an embarrassing way, maybe, you know, like, hey, pull them aside. Just want to clarify with you that, you know, Benjamin Franklin wasn't really a president. You know, first president was George Washington, just so you know. Just next time you're at a party, you get a few drinks, maybe don't say that again.
Ease him off the ledge. Hey, look, Aron, man, Aron, my fault, man. I appreciate you coming through, man. Yeah, we you know, hopefully you stop back through, man, and check out the Pseudo Killers, man. Check out the work we doing, and you know, we fighting for this thing. We fighting for our right not to believe in the foolery. We call it tomfoolery. And there's a lot of pseudos out there. And we just want to make sure that we correct everything, man. Cedric, man, you want to say one last thing before I let him go? You had a statement to make?
I appreciate the fact that Aron Ra is over here. This is an honor. I already shared it on my Facebook page. Thank you so much for gracing us. I've been watching you forever, the Four Horsemen. Just thank you.
All right.
Thank you kindly.
Hey, Aron Ra, man, appreciate you, man. We'll get back in contact with you when you're free again. Slide back through, man. This has been one of them high-level conversations, ladies and gentlemen, man. We appreciate everybody for coming through, man. We appreciate the whole daggone thing, man. Y'all know what it is around here, man. We're going to leave out with our theme song, man. DQ, man. The Pseudo Killers, man. Appreciate everybody.
Yeah.
All that work you're doing. With everything that human beings tell us. And with that, man, we out.
Check. Tapping in, what's the subject? Evolution or revolution, we ain't done yet. Laying flat like Sanchez, it's a bomb threat. I know my flow like Gangoji. Source up and show me, homie. You shut up and mute up a moment. The mad scientist, I'm knowing all the components. We own it, and we gon' off it if it's pseudo. You do know we don't entertain that keyboard judo. That big Bobby banger out of Baltimore. Done it all, shop before. Sold a little something, but I taught you more than your average lyrics teacher. I had to reach you at your level to bring you up. No devil can never beat you. With precision of a magi, the information supplied by some guys get debunked online. CK and Juju, I chill in the cut. But if you boys wanna fade, then I'm shifting you up. I organize live, the beats are disorganized, truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, back again. An organized lie, the beats are disorganized, truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, tapping in. I always been fly, that's an actual omen. You can catch me in the sky, ask Anthony Bowman. You see me with his telescope, I was actually floating on some good kush. The Sabio is actually growing. See, Gullah and Kent is where the money gets spent. The boys got some books that cost as much as you rent. The second verse should be smashed rock well, but I rock well. Underground like Sumerian rock whales. In the ring like I'm the rock whale. Hell, create a different wave that can rock whales. Hell, shit swell like lunar tides. My entendres are Gandra to who describe. Euthanize foolish guys. Scholastically, haphazardly. Turn your camera on and look me in my eyes. And please do subscribe. 8 to 80, blind, cripple, or crazy. You in for a new surprise. It's DQ, a organized lie. The beats are disorganized, truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, back again. An organized lie. The beats are disorganized, truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, tapping in.